Hello. I guess we're on now. We're broadcasting. We're a little shorthanded right at the moment. This is Monday and Tuesday of the week, and Monday and Tuesday on the week before the season starts usually the heaviest draft time. There's Andy there. She's popped in. I just thought we'd go on to make sure we made the time and talk about nothing until then.
No problem. You should always do that when I don't get here.
Yeah, we were talking about Randy Dobnik's contract. That's what we were starting to talk about.
What about him?
Well, I mean, do you think he's a guy that you want on your fantasy team, or is he a guy you'd want on your baseball team?
I don't think so. I don't really know him enough to say if I want him on my baseball team.
But he's got that story that you would love. You know, he's the guy that was like 2 years ago he was driving Uber and packing groceries, and last year he got called up to play for the Twins. Had a very, very good first month of the year and a very average, but Major League Baseball average second half of the year. And then they gave him a 5-year contract at $9.25 million with bonuses that could actually make the payoff be in the $25-29 million part. But even at that, like 2 years ago, he's an Uber driver. This year, he's guaranteed to make $880,000 for the next 5 years.
I love it.
Yeah, you got to like that. And I mean, in the deeper of leagues or a spot starting him, I know that we talked about Dobnak a lot. Lenny did last year while he was going through that because he was sort of he was sort of a bit of a sensation because of the out of the nowhere concept that guy came from. And
so Malpel has an issue with his family member. I mean, he didn't really explain to me what it is, but so anyway, let me. I had to restart my computer because I couldn't get on. Hi, Mitchell. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine. Did you read the rundown? Or let's talk about. I mean, this is exciting times right now. I just got to do my first waiver wire pickups last night. Did you guys?
I did, but I consider myself a really good drafter, so I don't do much on the first run. I put in 4 claims and I got 3 of them.
Which ones did you get?
Well, in one league, when we draft, if you draft you could draft an injured guy, you could draft a minor leaguer, so you don't really cut anybody. You sort of have this open roster spot. So in that league, I picked up Kike Hernandez to take Jared Klenick's spot because he went to the minors, and I picked up Brad Keller to take Justin Verlander's spot because it's a 5-keeper league and you can't keep a first rounder, so that guy had to be thrown back into the pot. So I drafted Verlander in the 19th round, so I get to keep him in the 18th round next year. You know, one of those deals.
Yeah.
Then in TGFBI, I decided I put in a $3 claim for Donovan Solano cutting Jose Iglesias because I'm just kind of changing my underwear on the same type of player. And then I put in a $3 claim on Jake Arrieta cutting Johnny Cueto because they're the same type of player and I like what Arrieta's done. But Cueto went for like $26. And that's right. Arrieta went for $26. That's out of 1,000.
That's what's crazy. I've got people in one of my auction leagues that'll spend their entire year's fab this weekend.
Well,
Lenny totally will do it. He was like, "What are you saving your money for?" And I'm like, "Well, I like to pick up players throughout the season when someone gets injured." So
if the right player was there, like if you were in a situation, if I'm in $1,000 league and I needed Jordan Romano, I could see dropping $400 or $500 on Jordan Romano because he's probably going to be the closer for as long as he can keep it, which could be the whole year long, and you get 25 weeks of him. But it takes something like that. Like it addresses a need, and the guy's got to be poised to be a real contributor for the whole year because you get more out of somebody picking up in the first round than you do in the first week than you do by picking up in the 10th week because you only get 15 more weeks of them.
That's an argument for spending your fab money by the All-Star break because if you wait too long, then you're not going to get the return on investment. I just don't like spending all of it right away because things are going to happen. And somebody's going to emerge. Every year you have people emerge.
Yeah, I agree too. I wait for the right moment.
I noticed the people that are doing best in the league, a lot of them are holding tight to their fab money for a while so they can come in and scarf somebody up. Who did you get, Andy, and your pickups?
So I'm trying to find. Okay, so I got Brian Reynolds, and I put 2. I don't know why Zach Gallen and Carlos Carrasco are eligible for the injured list. So I was able to just send them to the injured list, and I got Brian Reynolds and Adam Wainwright for those 2. I made a whole bunch of bids though, and like to be honest with you, I'm looking at how much all these cost people, and I don't know, I don't get it because I'm only seeing like $8 here, $6 here, and for instance,
Is it of 100 or of 1,000?
this is $100.
Yeah, that's what I have. So
So
you're spending $26. That's 25% of your fab money for the year.
I just feel like you have to save some money. And Lenny's all about, I do not agree with the whole Romano idea too, because I look at these closers and I say to myself, like, yes, he's going to have the first shot at having that job, but he's only got like 15 innings in the major leagues. And I feel like I'm not going to spend all my fab money on a guy that may or may not continue to be.
I mean, I understand there's that logic. Like you have to be pretty confident that he'll keep the thing the whole year long. I am pretty confident, and I don't think most of the guys you're talking about that are fab eligible are guys you're confident are going to be there the whole year long. He's about as good as it gets.
I will tell you, Doug, Rafael Dolis is not horrible.
Yeah, and that's the truth is that
not bad last year at the end of the year.
You could get Dolis for probably $5 or $6 in 1,000, probably $2-3 in 100.
Okay, so we're going to talk about closers tonight. I have a bunch of stuff on the rundown, but I know like we can't talk about all this stuff. So I figured like we could just go around and we can each talk about the ones that we find interesting. Yeah, like for instance, first of all, let's talk about Matt Barnes and his false COVID positive test.
It was a false test?
Yeah. He's back.
All those people ran out and got Ottavino.
It's what we call, you guys don't follow college football, but it's what we call Nick Saban COVID test.
Oh, why?
You just keep taking it till they're good. It doesn't really matter. Oh, it's positive. Give them another one.
Yeah.
It's positive. Give them another one. Then you get that. Then you get that negative, and you put them out there.
So
nobody on the University of Alabama got sick this year somehow. Not one person.
We are going to talk about some players that got sent down. That some surprises. Some players that we've just figured out that now they're locked into the jobs. We're going to talk about some updates on injuries, and then we're going to talk about closer situations, of course. So Aaron Judge is under the weather. What do you guys think of the fact that Aaron Judge is ill now? Nothing COVID, or they say it's not physical, but it just is like, does it make you shake your head at all? And do either of you have Aaron Judge on your team?
I never would get him. Because, and I love Aaron Judge. I think he's as fine a man as anybody in baseball. I really do like the
cat. For sure, me too.
He's always got an issue.
I don't dislike Aaron Judge, but there's always somebody in the league that drafts him like in the high third round. No, it's just about 8 or 12 picks before
he's not reliable. How'd you like to have given that $300 million contract to Giancarlo Stanton? How bad is that contract been? Horrible. Not as bad as Chris Davis.
The Marlins love that contract.
Right. Yeah. Chris Davis is the worst. I think that actually comes off their books this year, Chris Davis. Or does
he one more year, Andy?
Does he get paid like some kind of long term too?
I think it's another $30 million next year.
He's
I
last.
Feel sorry for that young man. I'll tell you what, I feel sorry for him in a way. The shit absolutely destroyed that man. It destroyed him.
He's the last of the contracts where I kind of respect the Orioles for saying this guy has done so much for us, we're going to pay him, which is something that teams used to do. Like, oh, he's a long-term Oriole, he's a long-term Cub, he's the last one that's going to get that because
that's right.
He's been so bad since the thing. I can argue that almost every contract is good. I cannot make an argument for that contract because he never
could anybody. Yeah. No, nobody could.
But most of the time the contract comes. The contracts come. And even if like people don't like the Albert Pujols contract or something, at the time that was made, both sides were very happy with the contract.
Okay, let me tell you guys something real quick. Let me just go through the injured. Tomorrow is Tout Wars waiver wire pickup. So this team is. Listen to the people I have on this team. I have George Springer who has oblique problems. He's going for a second MRI. I have Zach Eflin with back problems. I have Strasburg who have problems all the time. I have Josh Fleming, who got sent down to the minors. I have Nick Anderson, who's out for the season.
Months, yeah.
Richard Rodriguez, who's about to lose his job as the Pittsburgh Closers. I have Zach Gallen on this team. Zach Gallen is also hurt. Nelson Lamet on this team, and also Eduardo Rodriguez, who I was bragging that was like my only good not injured player. Now he's injured. And Robbie Ray, who falls down the stairs. And I mean, does anybody have more injured players than me?
That's too many. Who's getting the Pittsburgh gig if Rodriguez? Kyle Crick?
Yeah, probably.
He's the most talented of the pitchers, right?
Wasn't he a number one pick in the draft?
I'm not sure about that.
I believe so at one point. He not number one pick of the draft, but he was the number one for the team. I think he was.
So Sixto Sanchez got sent down. Do any of you guys?
I don't understand that at all.
I
do.
don't either.
What happened with Sixto Sanchez is this, right? One, he's one of those guys that even when we draft, we know he's not going to pitch 150 games. He's probably going to get 100 innings, right? So they're going to limit him somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's just a little guy. He's not very big, is he? They call him Pedro Martinez.
So they're choosing to limit him at the beginning. If you look at the Marlins schedule, in the first 9 days they have 2 games off.
Okay.
So they probably would only need a fifth starter maybe one day in the first 14 days, and they could probably get by with doing an opener or something, that one thing, and send him to the alternate site, let him get regular pitching rather than not pitch.
See, but they're not even going. Yeah, see, they're not even starting AAA until May 1st.
Yeah,
right?
But they have the alternate site.
Let's not make excuses for what's really going on that we know about.
Well, he's going to miss
salary contract.
Well, it's harder to do that with pitchers because it's about most pitchers wind up qualifying for Super 2 based on days where they have butts on the bench.
Okay, listen to me.
Playing.
Sixto Sanchez started 7 games last year in the majors, just almost enough to qualify for his clock to start, okay, but not enough. And then they send him to a non-existent training camp that isn't even open yet, and somebody's going to try to tell me that they're trying to get him regular innings somewhere that doesn't even exist. He had a 1.13 ERA this spring, and it's pretty apparent to me what's going on here, that they're sitting him down because they don't want his clock to start, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's unfortunate.
The point I'm trying to make is this: is that somebody that young without a lot of preparation to his arm, he's going to miss 2 months of play somewhere this year.
Right.
It's like, can you think of any time that would make more sense for him to miss it than the start of the year?
No, that's a good point. That's valid.
Well, why would he be at spring then? Like, I don't know.
If he's only going to throw if they're only going to let him throw 120 innings,
right?
I believe the Marlins are legitimate number one, I will bet you a 6-pack of your favorite beer that they finish ahead of Washington.
Okay.
I will bet you a 6-pack right now.
Okay.
They may be in the hunt for the wild card. They have got an excellent pitching staff.
Yeah, I agree that they have a good team.
I think Doug's point's well taken. If you're only going to give me 120 innings, if I start the 120 innings on May 15th, you can have me all summer. If I start the 120 innings on April 1st, you will be running out of your target, your ceiling, around Labor Day.
And you think of the Nationals, who you brought up. Remember when they brought up Strasburg?
Exactly.
And they ran out of innings when they went to the playoffs?
By the way,
the Marlins might be thinking playoffs.
That's true. He looked good today, Andy. Strasburg did.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. It makes me so happy.
There's no problem. I watched the game. It was no problem.
Okay, yay. That makes me so happy. Okay. So if they did send him down for that reason, why didn't they just say that? Why did they say that? Because it makes them look so bad to me. It's just like
they didn't say anything.
Yeah, I don't think they said anything.
I do think they said that they wanted him to work on something, which is
that's BS. That's they say that about everybody.
I'm not positive that they did that.
They're not come out like this idiot in Seattle and say we deliberately sent you down so we wouldn't have to pay you.
Nobody's going to say that, but they do say that they're going to send you down to work on whatever your defense.
Yeah, that's a perfect response. You can always say that.
They should say exactly what you guys just said. It would make them look a lot better. Like, just
anyway. Yeah. If you or I were running the Marlins, we'd say, "Hey, we're the Marlins. We think we're going to make the playoffs this year.
We need more later in the season.
Sanchez to pitch in the postseason." And everyone would go, "Yeah, that's wonderful." But yeah,
everybody would be on.
They don't
board,
ask us,
including Sanchez, probably.
Yeah.
So Eduardo Rodriguez, would you guys draft him on this day and age? Because he did go out and he pitched a sim game. He had dead arm, whatever the fuck dead arm is. Okay.
Yeah, dead arm is a mystery.
There is something, but it doesn't appear to last all that long. I was shocked that he was back. But
the weird thing is that sometimes dead arm lasts like 3 days, and sometimes it lasts a month. That's the weird thing about it. Yeah, is that it's sort of like this.
A dead arm is not exactly the message you want about your starting pitcher. I was thinking of getting him until this dead arm thing. I was going to bid on him this weekend. I had an auction this weekend, and I didn't touch him. But I did get Wainwright. Everybody's laughing at me.
I don't care if they laugh. They can laugh right.
I like Wainwright.
Hey, I threw out Matthew Boyd in the second round at $5, and there was nothing but crickets.
Yeah, that's a lot for Matthew Boyd.
The auctioneer was stunned. He sat there.
Is this an only league or no? This isn't an only league.
No, this is mixed league, 15 team. You know who Chris Liss is, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We all know Chris, or at least know of him.
Mm-hmm.
He said today that he's in 7 leagues and he has Matt Boyd on 5 of them. And this is the reason. This is the reason
he pitches innings, dude. Because you're going to get innings, and
he's going to throw 200 innings and probably get 200 strikeouts. How many pitchers in 20?
And probably let him 50 homers.
That's not well.
You're going to buy that. You're right, Doug. You're going to buy
it's like yeah, I want innings, but I don't want god awful innings. I want at least average innings.
Yeah.
For the first half of the season, he's great, and you just need to sell him off before the second half of the season.
That's a good point.
I have to decide right this minute. I'm on the clock. I mean, look, okay, Adam Duvall. Maybe I'll wait another round or two for him, but I'm trying to decide between Jesse Winker, who I think might hit 30 home runs, and Kyle Schwarber. Or there's also Hunter Dozier, who qualifies at first and outfield.
I like Hunter Dozier more than most people do. I know Winker is a really good hitter based on the mechanic parts of it, the StatCast parts.
He bounced lead off.
And everything I hear about them says that he's their guy. I just don't believe that he is for some reason.
I like Hunter Dozier. He might get you 10 steals.
I think Hunter Dozier is a kind of underrated guy, but you could probably get Hunter Dozier next round, don't you think? I mean, he's got a pretty low ADP. If you like Winker, it's a solid pick. Guess
who's last, dude? Guess who's ranked 3,024th on this list?
Is this an NFBC?
Yeah.
It's Justin Mason's wife.
What do you mean? Is she on there?
Danielle Salinger is on there somewhere.
Are you fucking kidding me? Wait, hold on a minute. What?
They have a couple of like fake names in there, but
Danielle Salinger
is a catcher. She's ranked like 3,000th or something.
Okay, Chris Davis is the last on the list, ranked 3,024.
So Danielle Salinger is ahead of Chris Davis. That's good to know.
Pablo Sandoval is down there too. Some of these guys. Okay, the fact that they're playing and the fact that they're that low on the list is weird to me. Jake Lamb just signed with the White Sox, by the way.
Yeah, so it'll be the second team he's on that I don't like him on.
You don't like Jake Lamb?
The Nationals should have been all over that. They don't have a third baseman.
I mean,
they sent Carter Key bust down to the minors.
Yes, I know. Let's talk about that for a second. They did. They sent him down. They promised him that they would give him an everyday job at third base. He
isn't getting it done, Andy.
I agree with you 100%. I'm not trying to make an opinion either way. I'm just saying that this idea that we're going to give you this job and let you have your time to get through your bumps and whatever it is, but he has not been doing it. What do you think about this situation? The fact that they're going to have Josh Harrison and Starling Castro at second and third base, respectively.
I think Castro is a solid big league performer. He's not exactly wonderful fantasy wise, but he's a solid big league performer. Harrison hasn't done much in a while. I really miss Howie Kendrick there. I guess I'm staying away from that. I'm surprised that there isn't somebody that, like a journeyman that could fill that spot somewhere.
They signed Jordy Mercer, but
yeah, Jordy Mercer. I prefer Jordy Mercer to Josh Harrison.
I think I might too. Yeah.
But it's really scraping the bottom of the barrel there.
You're right.
I mean, what happened? what happened to Asdrubal Cabrera? Wasn't he used to be on there? He's not a guy I like, but at least he's a big league player.
No, he's not in Washington anymore. He's on another team now.
He's Arizona, but he was a major factor in their World Championship.
Yeah,
he drove in 90 runs that year as a $1 pickup in an auction.
Yeah, right. He could qualify, right? Everywhere.
He can play first, he can play third, he can play shortstop, and he can play second.
Okay, another one on this list is Kalenic from Seattle, where, we heard all about, this guy just basically said what we all know is true out loud, that we're not going to bring up Kalenic because he refused to sign a long-term contract, and we're not going to let his clock start ticking. So people were really pissed off about that, like so pissed off that he had to resign from his job. It's like you guys all know how I feel about it, but Kalenic has not even played in the third AAA yet. So they're still saying that he could actually be promoted to the majors before he even steps foot on AAA park.
That's fine.
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys like that right now.
He's unproven. He's unproven. All you hear is a lot of hype. And I heard a lot of hype about Carter Keyboom, too, for 2 years. He was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread.
They all are, don't you know? Okay, don't you know? Odubel Herrera did not make the team in Philly. No, he did not. That makes me sad. I kind of like Odubel, even though I don't really know. I just like watching him because he's fun to watch. When there's this one that I will never forget with Odubel ever in my life. It was so funny. He's stealing bases, right? And his third base coach, he's coming around he's like running from second to third. I think he was trying to steal a base on a foul, like it doesn't even really matter. He's coming around third and his base coach is telling him to stop at third. He's like, stop. And he's got his hand out like this, and Odubel just runs all the way around him on the outside and just kept, like, never even slowed down for a second. He's just incorrigible, kind of like Puig.
I will tell you, Andrew, there's no way he's not better than the other two people they're planning to play in center field.
But now they don't even have him on the 40-man roster
right.
So somebody needs to either claim him or I don't know what's going to happen now.
He's still their property if they had an option left on him. But he was Rule 5 to begin with, I believe.
Yeah, he was Rule 5 pickup.
No.
Yeah,
Odubel came from Texas in Rule 5.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
He's been with Philly since I can remember.
But he came there as a Rule 5.
He's been on Philly unless he left and came back.
It was like 4 years ago or whatever when he came to Philly. When he came to Philly, the first that he I don't think he never played in the Phillies minors until later on. He was a Texas guy that wasn't covered.
So he was already a Rule 5 guy and they had to take him back, or how does this work? Is that what happened?
No. He played.
Detroit is keeping Akir Baddoo.
Yes, because he is a Rule 5.
No, but
he's Rule 5.
Yeah, the thing is that Odubel Herrera was a Rule 5 guy like in 2016 or 17.
No, he wasn't. I'm looking at this.
And he played his rookie year. He played well enough to stay with the team the whole year long, and then he became the property of the Phillies. So he'll always be known as a guy that was originally Rule 5, but he's not Rule 5 now.
He's never played for any team but the Phillies.
Right. He played in the minors for the Rangers. He was drafted out of their minors.
Okay. I don't know anything about this. I don't remember anything about this. But either way, I like watching him.
Right there he is.
No, in
Odubel Herrera, Rule 5.
In 2015 it says that he was a Rule 5 from the Rangers during.
He actually led all the minors in batting average, and he wasn't protected by the Rangers.
But he was 23 and he was a Rule 5. I don't get how that happened.
Well, you have to play 4 years to get to Rule 5.
Here's one for you. Who's the best Rule 5 player, arguably, in the last 25 years?
Well, the best of all time is beyond 25 years. The best of all time is easily Roberto Clemente.
Really?
He was a Rule 5?
Yeah.
Well, in the last 20 years, who was the best?
God, who's the best in the last 25 years? Rule 5.
Anybody can be smart with a cell phone. Josh Hamilton was Rule 5.
That's true. He was.
Hey,
He was so problematic he wasn't covered. That's true. It was a Cub. He was a Cub loss.
Yep.
Forgot about him.
Merrill, your brother, Merrill Hartson, he says that Scott Kingery was demoted. That was a surprise to him.
Scott Kingery, he's right. Just think of all the money they gave Scott Kingery. 6-year contract. That was like 2 years ago.
I think Merrill, the Odell got sent down too. Not even just sent down, but like actually kicked off the roster. And
he wasn't on their roster. He was an on-roster invitee. So when they let him go, he's free to go wherever he wants.
So he's a free agent.
Now a lot of teams are saying, "Hey, we'll take you to alternate site," but we don't know how that outcome has come yet.
But he says Kingery got sent down too. What the hell is the Philly? What are they going to do? I got to look at their depth.
Adam Hazley is going to play center field, I guess.
Hazley's going to split center field with Maniac or something like that.
And Roman Quinn got the job too. He's staying up.
So
Hazley and Quinn will share.
Quinn and Hazley will platoon at some level.
Mm-hmm. Alec Boehm, third base.
That's a good thing fantasy wise for Quinn. Quinn's a real stolen base guy, and the truth is about stolen base guys is that he's going to get his stolen bases whether he gets 100 at bats or 500 at bats. He actually probably would prefer him to only have 100 at bats.
He's a cheap
because the other stuff is terrible.
Yeah, you're right, Doug. He's a cheap source of stolen bases.
Okay, so Akil Baddoo, we were just talking about him. We had a beat writer from Detroit on the other day, and we were talking to him, and this guy is going crazy this spring.
Yeah,
he just did another home run today. Okay,
who's
Akil Baddoo.
Yeah.
But the beat writer did not at all sound like he was convinced that this was going to be that this was going to be.
I don't think he's the second coming of Grady Sizemore or anything, but that's a pretty bad team all through the thing. I mean, I love Miguel Cabrera, but he's a shell of what he once was. Their outfield is a bunch of, their outfield is so bad that I'm excited about Robbie Grossman. He's a good enough player.
Robbie Grossman is getting some good helium this year.
Yeah, it's like there's room for a guy like that to play. And the truth, and I do believe this for it's like had he had a chance to mature in the minors at Gilbert 2-3 years, he would have been a top 100 prospect. He just came up faster than that. And that's true. That's what we want people to do. It's like he was given an opportunity. One day he got a call by the Twins saying, "Hey, we're not protecting you." The next 3 days later, he got picked up by the Tigers, and he went to it and he said, "I got a chance to play. I'm going to give it my all." And if you watch him play in the spring training, there is no doubt that he's the best player on the field for the Tigers. That's the scary part. It's partially because the Tigers are so bad, but it's also partially because the guy is athletic. You talk about fun to watch. He's like on the same day that Tatis scored from second on a pop up, he did the same thing in his game. He's stolen 5 bases. He's taken 10 walks. It's like he's the kind of guy that. I mean, I did say I drafted him in one league, but it was the 448th pick in that draft.
Yeah.
Right. Just to put it in perspective, that's how deep I'm behind the guy.
Yeah.
But he's definitely somebody you should watch because, the other guy, Victor Reyes on their team, which people seem to like more than I think they should, is a guy that people like because he might get you 13 stolen bases and might get you 13 home runs and he'll get you a 285 average. It's like Baddoo can do that stuff. And there's not a person on the earth outside of maybe Jacoby Jones's mom who thinks that Jacoby Jones is better than Baddoo.
I said that before, and you couldn't be more right. I've never understood the hype on Jacoby Jones. Not once. He's never done the thing.
Well, the thing is, he's gotten 4 years to try to prove it. And that's the thing. We're giving up on Carter Keybone on 105 at bats.
Right.
Jacoby Jones has got 1,000 at bats of mediocrity.
Okay, Davy Garcia, Yankees. You guys, he was sent down. So he hasn't also. Oh no, that's Kalenic. Davy Garcia, 7 earned runs, 12 hits, 14 strikeouts in 14 innings this spring. And we already talked a little bit about Spencer Howard. I know, right? Did he get sent down or he's staying?
I don't think he was sent down.
I think he might have been. I have him in that group, but maybe I put it in the wrong group. I could have.
I think, Andy, that Davy Garcia is in the Kalenic camp. He has options. If you have an option, they can use the option, and they will use the option.
The other thing is that,
of course. But didn't Davy Garcia pitch last year in the majors? Like a good amount of time?
A lot of people pitched in the majors last year. They sort of threw out things, and this is what we're going to see is guys that played last year getting pushed back to stuff. The Yankees are in a situation. They went out and they signed Cole 2 years ago. They signed Kluber this year, it's like 4 of their 5 spots were already taken. If Luis Severino wasn't injured, there would be no room for David Garcia in the first place. So they had 1 spot, and they had Herman and Garcia fighting out for it, and Herman outpitched them by a little bit. And Garcia's got the options.
Right, he's got the options. That's for sure.
But Herman's pitching history and what he did in the spring training is very good. It was not like the guy didn't deserve to play somewhere. You're just in a spot where, they seem to love Jordan Montgomery in the 4 spot. The other 3 spots are Cole, Kluber, and Taillon, yeah.
Okay, locked in the job. Taylor Trammell locked into left field in Seattle. Casey Mize is staying up, and Terry Skubal. You guys Casey Mize has looked absolutely horrible. It's very surprising that he's staying up, but he is. But Tariq Skubal looking great. Okay, looking good. He's such a youngster, though. He's exciting, but high ceiling, like high floor, low floor, really low floor.
Yeah. Can we go back to Spencer Howard?
Yes.
He's going to start Friday against the Mets.
Okay.
So he is on the roster.
Okay, good. I must have put him in the wrong group.
That's because Eflin's got a problem, like you said earlier.
Oh, that's what it is. Eflin is, he's probably going to miss.
But Eflin, they said he was going to start. They said that he was going to. Wait a minute. It says, Spencer Howard kid viewed as a starter long term, but the Phillies intend to use him in a hybrid role. But he's not in the big leagues. It says when he returns to the big leagues. What does that mean?
Well, I just read that he's going to start Friday against the Mets. I just read it just 2 minutes ago.
That's crazy. So this was yesterday that this was written.
It changed overnight.
Isn't that the second game of the season? Wouldn't it seem to go like Nola Wheeler, or are they going to save Wheeler for homecoming or something?
Spencer Howard, right? That's what we're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying,
Howard. This says.
The idea of him pitching the second game of the season for the Phillies.
On the 26th, he was optioned to Triple-A Lehigh Valley. And because he had some back spasms and stuff. And then it says...
and isn't there a rule that if you get option, you have to stay down for 10 or 14 days? Or something
you have to stay down for, an amount of time. I don't know.
He won't be pitching Friday.
He only has 24 innings in the majors. So then it says yesterday that back troubles prevented him from opening day rotation role, though they aren't considered a long-term issue, and he'll open the year in the minors due to his lost build-up time this spring, but he could be back in the big leagues before too long.
Okay.
What do you think, though? Where did you see that? That's so interesting. I bet you.
That might be a dated story that I got. It may be like 2 weeks ago.
I swear they're changing so much, like as we speak. You know what I mean?
When I was paging through stuff and I saw that Josh Harrison was playing third base for the Nationals, I thought I was reading something from a couple of years ago. I literally because it was on a site that I don't usually go to. It's like, no, maybe they haven't updated for a while.
It's not real exciting, is it, Doug?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so you do have Eflin scheduled to start on Thursday. That's great for me because I have him on my Tout Wars team with all the rest of the injured guys. But Eflin he's got back problems. Let's just hope they go away, but it's still something. And Dinelson Lamet, is he starting on Monday? No, this is hold on a minute. 3/29. That's today. So Dinelson Lamet started today, and Eflin is planning on starting on Sunday. This coming Sunday, he'll be starting for Philly. And he started today, so we'll see what happens there. I don't know. But Dinelson Lamet, I've got to look at these. Okay, you guys keep talking. I'm going to be looking at the scores for today. Jazz, go into the next section, the locked-in section. We could talk about any of these guys that you want.
Well, you mentioned Taylor Trammell, who's he's apparently impressed folks, but he is a placeholder until Kyle Lewis comes back.
I think he's more of a placeholder until they decide to call up Clinic. They got too many guys to make me think that Trammell's a long-term solution, though there's things to like about Trammell.
They're going to try to get rid. I think they're going to try to trade Haniger. But I saw, Douglas, that you picked up Ty France in our.
I own him in every league that I have. Yeah,
he's having an excellent spring. I don't even know much about him. What do you expect out of this?
Well, he's those guys. Like when I look at the minors, the thing about Ty France, and this is the story that I say every time someone asks me about Ty France. Ty France in 2019 led the entire minors in OPS. He was the best hitter in the entire minors, and he wasn't really overaged. He was 23, and he didn't really play last year because there was no minors to have it. And then the Seattle decided they wanted to trade for him. That was the guy they wanted, and they gave up, a good number of players. But the guy that they got Taylor Trammell on the same deal, but the guy they wanted was France. And it reminds me of when Seattle targeted Mitch Haniger from the Diamondbacks. He was a relative unknown at that point in time. Had one good year, but what they saw they really liked. And Haniger has, outside of this 2-year injury thing, been way better than anyone expected. And so I'm buying into that. The other thing about France is that even though he's slotted in to be their starting DH, he's actually an okay fielder, and he plays second base and third base. And the truth is, I believe when they went for France, they're that Mariners are gonna let Seager walk into the year, and he's gonna be their long-term third baseman.
Yeah.
But
trade him.
What? Or trade him or something. But in that league that we're in, it's a draft and hold. The reason why I drafted him, and I drafted him in the 17th round, which isn't super high, but drafted him a little higher than maybe he should go, is because having second and third base eligibility, which I think he will eventually get, he will spell Seager at third base in a draft and hold. That double eligibility has some real value.
Can I ask an off-the-wall question that's been bothering me for a few days?
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda, but I just want to ask because I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Today was the last day of spring training games, correct?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. It's only 2 days, 2 more days before the start of the season.
I mean, in years past, they would have the first game on a Sunday night, and people would still be playing spring training that morning.
There's a few games tomorrow. There are games tomorrow.
But here's my question: they've still got all these kids playing. I don't get it. Don't you play your regulars the last couple of weeks of spring training and get them ready? I watched the Nationals game today with Houston. The 80% of the players on the field were kids that are going to the minors. I don't understand this 3 days before the season starts.
Well, you know what? I think that there's something to the fact that there's not going to be any minor league system for a month or for a while. Maybe they're trying to get them.
Yeah, that's
and that they don't want to hurt their regular guys. They don't want them hurt. Like spring training, obviously.
The Nationals need to carefully guide along Josh Harrison.
I love Victor Robles this year. Okay, you guys, I love him.
Yeah.
Lately, as soon as we talked to this beat writer for the Nationals, she talked to us about one of her articles at The Athletic talks about what he did was when he had that great season, he tried to get all buffed up like in the off season. And when he came back to work for 2019, he came back, he was like all this muscle and blah, blah, blah. He could not run as good. And so,
or swing.
Yeah. And so then they were like, you got to quit trying to be something you're not, and just your asset is your speed. Well, so far this spring, he's already hit 4 home runs. He's stolen 4 bases. I could have
gotten him for $1 in a Florida auction league.
He's batting leadoff, you guys. He's absolutely a steal in drafts, I think.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, he's had a little bit of a problem keeping the batting average up, which has in the past where he's gotten to lead off, he hasn't held that spot, and I can understand why somebody might be a little scared that he wouldn't hold that spot. The advantage he has this year over years past is that there's a lot of garbage on that team, and and also, you could theoretically see Trey Turner batting leadoff instead of him, but then Robles would bat second. It's not like they're going to put Starlin Castro or Yan Gomez or Josh Harrison in the leadoff spot. They don't have a guy.
Castro can get on base, I think. But here's the thing: he was horrible about not being able to, when he gets behind in the count, he was having a hard time even making contact at that. Whenever he had 2 strikes against him, he would just melt at the plate. And so he's been working on these new batting stance where he can sit back and look and see the ball a little bit longer before he has to start swinging. It's something about spreading his legs or standing back. I don't know what it is, but he's been working on it. So it seems to be working. He's doing really good. And they say that he always has had a really good work ethic. I just think, for where he's going in drafts, you just can't. How could you even go wrong with it?
I think there's a difference in drafts between ADP and where he gets drafted, because I don't dislike the guy, but it's a situation where I see him getting drafted right about where Byron Buxton gets drafted. Neither of the guys I'm super in love with, right? But it's I would take Buxton over him, but that would be about the last guy I would take over him, But he goes that high, and it just because it only takes one guy out of 12 or one guy out of 15 to really love the person. for him to fall out of my range.
Yeah,
So I'm never,
that's
Go
right.
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Talk about the next guy on the list. Who we got?
Well, you got Kirk. You mentioned Casey. How about
yeah, Alexander Kirk made
350-pound catcher?
Is he really that heavy? I thought he's a little.
Oh, he's a hoss.
Yeah, but
gotta-
they love him, dude.
He's got a good hit tool.
He's
Apparently.
probably the best hitting catcher in baseball, just hitting wise. He could be. He's one of the few guys. Like I target in catching. I don't really care that much. I just want the biggest thing I want on my catcher is that he doesn't hurt me in batting average. Alexander Kirk is the kind of guy that could hit 310 as a catcher. You know.
Yep.
And nobody hits a lot of home runs, and he'll be in the pack with the other stuff.
Yep, I agree.
But I'm surprised he's that.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't.
I was just gonna say I didn't know he was that big. He
James
is pretty
Karinchak. I'm looking at the biggest risers and stuff, and they're all closers. The players that are traveling up the ADP. It's Trevor Rosenthal has moved up 73 spots. Kenley Jansen has moved up 57 spots. And then we have Karinchak, who is an interesting one when Francona pretty much came out and did everything less like he didn't say it specifically, but he hinted at every turn he could that Karinchak, and then that was not just his job, okay, that he was going to give these other two opportunities, like I think it's Whitgren and someone else.
Emmanuel Clase.
Okay. What do you think of this? Quit drafting Karinchak so high because he has very little experience in the major leagues. Yes, he struck out a ton of batters, but now his job is not even that secure. What do you think, Doug?
That phrase that coaches say about their closing, like we're not going to name a closer, everyone's going to get a fight. I've heard that from hundreds of people, like in different coaches, different times. And what I feel like they're doing. And I understand where you're saying caution, but I feel like they're doing is they're holding out a carrot for Whitgren and Clase.
Yeah, they want him to work hard, right?
They want them to work hard. I mean, I think they have an idea because the manager this year of the Nationals said that about Brad Hand. It's like it's not his all the time, to make the other guys work. But the truth is, we saw what they did with Brad Hand last year. He got 16. He led the league in saves. He's the guy that they're going to go to, and I think Karinchak is the guy they're going to go to there.
Francona is there's managers, there's types of managers. Some managers, they like to be closer by committee, and that's well known, right? Francona has been now with the Indians for 9 years. This is his 9th season there, and in all the whole time he's been there, he's never.
Wasn't Brad Hand their closer for a year?
He's always had like one closer that he gives the ball to.
Yeah, he's never had a committee before. You're right.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of. I mean, outside of like the Rays. There aren't a lot of guys that really like to play committee in my mind.
I don't like committee.
No, nobody does, dude.
The Rays do. They're the one.
Who?
The Tampa Bay Rays have done that historically. Like
they've done it successfully.
But the players don't. The pitchers don't necessarily. They don't like it. I don't think any pitcher likes to not know their role. I think they all like to know their role.
Right.
And they all want to be the closer. Okay, if they're going to have to be in the bullpen, right?
You get paid more money as a closer than you do a 7th inning pitcher.
Now, Karinchak has not had a good spring, okay? He's walked 10 batters and struck out. I mean, he's a strikeout monster, so it's easy to overlook the other stats like walks, which are just as bad as a hit, and they're absolutely not good. 10 walks in 9 innings, 7 earned runs, and 19 strikeouts. But this is exactly why Francona said that. You either like light a fire to this guy or
right.
That is the other side. It might be saying to him, get better, not just the other guys.
But if you're drafting today and after you hear this and you wouldn't you like reconsider where you're going to draft this guy?
I think that in every league I've been in up to this point, he's drafted higher than I would. And I actually, the kind of guy that drafts closers. And yeah, the truth is this kind of news might make him fall to a place where I draft him. And I'd feel reasonably comfortable drafting him a little later than what he was.
Mitchell, I know you like to draft closers. You like to draft. I put the question on here about closers. Are you the type of person that likes to draft closers and you're willing to spend on 2 closers early?
Yeah, I protected. Yes, I did.
Or
I protected 2 closers, Andy, and I think I protected Chapman and Iglesias for $36.
Okay, but you
Lenny would say,
actually happen to have two of the closers with. There's only 12 teams in baseball that have a solid closer that is not worried about losing his job, right? With job security, you have two of them on your team, so I understand why you would protect those two. But if you were drafting today, would you spend the money that it takes to get a Aroldis Chapman or Josh Hader or? But then you also have Iglesias, who you can put these guys in tiers of how much money they're going to cost. But like Greg Holland has a pretty secure job. Daniel Bard has a secure job, in my opinion. Also, Kenley Jansen, Bass, okay, right? Douglas.
Hand in Washington's pretty secure.
I always
Diaz in the Mets is pretty secure.
Well, Andy, I'll tell you how stupid I am.
Okay.
In the Florida League, I got Brad Hain, then I got Mark Melanson, then I got Drew Pomeranz, and neither Melanson or
He just froze.
Pomeranz appear to be the closer. Emilio Pagan, they're saying, is going to be the closer.
Really?
No. You can't say that yet, because Pagan could be a closer, but Melanson is going to get the shot first. He's going to get the.
You don't normally give somebody money and then not use them.
Well,
I mean, they traded for a guy last year, and he wasn't very good last year. They didn't use him last year. I don't know why he would jump to the front right now.
Horrible, right?
That's what I'm saying. I can understand somebody saying that Pagan might be the closer at some point this season, but to say that he's a closer now, that seems like a jump.
Well, in the CBS roster trends, he's number 2 behind Romano as the most picked up guy in CBS.
Well, it's because people tend to not draft closers and they wind up chasing them all year long, and so you're going to see that from week 1 through week 23.
That's the biggest reason I protected 2 closers, because I chased closers. I paid $26 for Anthony Swarzak last summer.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and you'll regret that for the rest of your life.
Not really. I'm over it, but still stupid.
In Cincinnati, you have Amir Garrett. You have Stefan. Oh no, that's Stefan Crichton is in Arizona, but Amir Garrett, Lucas Sims, and Doolittle.
I think Sims is going to emerge as the closer.
Didn't they say something like they're gonna be co-closers?
Well, they all say that, but I think Garrett has a problem with command. I know he's got lightning stuff.
Remember just a couple weeks ago, it was so weird because it was like they had already announced that Lucas Sims and Amir Garrett were going to share the responsibility, and then all of a sudden, Amir Garrett shoots up the ADP and Lucas Sims falls down the same amount both ways, right?
Well, 2 things happened: is Sims got a little hurt, and Amir Garrett opened his mouth and he acted like, we don't really like players to be too cocky, but you want your closer to be cocky. You know what I mean? That's actually, the guy says, I want to do that. I'm better than anybody. That's what you want out of that guy. If the guy does it as a starting pitcher, you're a little scared.
Whatever. I don't know. Maybe that was the reason. I don't know. Because he thought that he was confident that he was going to get the job. So anyways, now it's been said they're going to match up. They're going to play the matchups. Okay. One of them's lefty and the other one's righty. So we would have to assume that the guy that's right-handed will probably get the majority of the saves.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
They're saying it's the same thing about Taylor Rogers and Colomé in Minnesota matchups.
Taylor Rogers and Alex Colomé, 2 good closers that are having to absolutely share saves. They say Colomé is going to end up with the season with more saves. To me, that's like.
I don't know if that's
true. Opinion, though. That's not any. That is not. You can't be like. Colomé at the end of the season, at the end of the day, and this is the beat writer saying this, so people listen to the beat writer and think that the beat writer actually knows what he's talking about, and maybe he does, but you don't even know what's going to happen between now and then. And we know that there's capable closers, and Russ, they're both capable closers. So for anybody to say well, at the end of the day, he's going to end up with more, but why is he going to end up with more?
Well, it's prediction. We're just before Nick Anderson got hurt, we all thought Nick Anderson would get a few more saves than Pete Fairbanks. Could it go the other way? We have to be open enough to say, yeah, it could go the other way. I like Taylor Rogers better than Colomé. Colomé was one of those guys. He's been very good enough to close, but he's also had when he played for the Rays, he had a lot of games where he did what I would call Jose Valverding his way out of the game. he would
Oh,
strike out. He'd strike out 3 and
remember
walk
that
through kind of thing. You know, like
That guy made you sick watching him.
yeah. But he'd get it done. He'd get it
Hey,
done.
who's your closer in San Francisco?
That's
Huh?
another one you got to. They say
Didn't
Jake
they name Jake
McGee.
McGee?
I do not trust him, but you know Taylor Rogers' brother is Tyler Rogers. Did you know that?
Yeah,
He's-
but he's like
not
he's like an underarm pitcher. I don't think that there's a
And Moronta.
Moronta is probably the most talented of the pitchers. So if you're going to play with those two teams, you would pick McGee or Moronta.
I do not like, dude, you skimming over tape. I do not like everybody just throwing Tyler Rogers to the side, dude. Even though I know that he got an opportunity last year and he started out the season horrible, okay? But he's not even young, but he's new to the majors still. And I'm telling you, this guy has one of his pitches is like unhittable. It's either his slider or his curveball. It's just unhittable.
But Doug was correct in saying
there was a time when the Submariners would close games.
Being a closer.
But the big part of the effectiveness of a side armor is the deceptive delivery, and you know, like I long term, like I think Dan Quisenberry belongs in the Hall of Fame, and he was a side armor, and there was Kent Colvey on the Pirates, but there was a reason why those kind of faded backwards, and it's because I don't know. I'd have to venture a guess what it is, but there hasn't been a lot of these, like you know, the guys that do that. It was Joe Smith was a side armor, and like he was a great setup guy. You know, like for some reason they don't put these guys in that role. And my thinking is that that his pitching stack looks better because he has a deceptive delivery, and it's not the kind of thing that I want to put up against a big league hitter like Jose Altuve or Mookie Betts when they can concentrate on that and go, I'm not, you know, if the real professional hitters are going to hit him.
I don't agree with you. I do not agree with you. His fastball is 82 miles an hour, right? He's the sidearm that you talk about, but this is induced.
Yeah, I could hit him.
Ground balls. Like his ground ball and the weak contact that is made on his. People can't hit barrels off of him. They can't hit home runs very often. He doesn't hardly walk any batters. I absolutely think he's going to get an opportunity to get.
He's in the mix. He's in the mix. You're right.
Yes, there's going to be all three of these guys getting saves in San Francisco, right? Okay.
I would guess that guy would get the fewest of the three, and that's an opinion.
Right.
It's based on, like I said, when I look at a relief bullpen, there's two things that I want. I want the guy to either be the person that the team wants or the guy with the best talent.
And why do you think velocity is the best talent? Velocity.
He just hasn't been. What you do in low leverage situations doesn't always translate to this sort of thing. There's been a lot of people that have blown up in the closer spot for whatever reason. It's psychologically harder, and the people that survive that both have the I want to do it makeup that Amir Garrett has, but also have plus stuff to rely on.
Plus meaning what? Lots of velocity.
Or, well, I mean, like Trevor Hoffman did it with the badass changeup. I mean, it could be something else. You know, Mariano Rivera did it with a hell of a cutter. You know, but something that is like it's like when I look at most sidearmers pitch outside of the deception of this is new. It's the same reason why you never have a knuckleballer close.
Okay, you know? So yeah, go ahead.
Once you see it a few times, they're going to figure out the deception part, and then all of a sudden the stuff is going to play worse.
See, I think command is among the most important characteristics of any relief pitcher, but particularly a closer, and that's my problem with Tanner Rainey, who has a lightning fastball. You can't hit that fastball if he gets it across the plate, but he's got a command issue.
There's a lot of pitchers we really like that. Even you know that have a lot of closers, more closers relievers would have like a 1-3, 1-3-5, 1-4 whip than we would be comfortable with.
Yeah.
And
okay, so that's that. 3 closers in San Francisco. It's really a good place to avoid doing that. Okay, then you got.
Yeah, it's also not the place you're shooting for. Yeah. So
we talked about Cincinnati. We talked about San Francisco. What about Philly? Okay, you have Alvarado over there, dude, who is absolutely. We have Hector Neris, first of all. Let's start with him since he's the guy that's been on the team forever, and he is the one that's been like kind of a closer whenever they don't have anybody else. Then they went out and acquired Archie Bradley this offseason. So then we assumed that he would probably at least get a share of the saves. And then now Alvarado is just stunning everybody, dude, with his pitches, that if he's actually on his pitches, he is like, nobody can hit him.
Alvarado's the best of the three of them.
The other night I told and Lenny got very mad at me for telling, but we have a friend who said that he was told by an insider in Philly that Alvarado is probably going to be the closer. So who knows? But anybody,
I agree with that. If they decided that, I agree with them. They're right.
It falls in that same thing. I think Alvarado's the best pitcher. I think that
can he stay
Nearest is the guy that the management is sort of comfortable with. Those are the guys you choose from. And yeah, take Alvarado. And the difference between Philadelphia and the Giants is that if there is a closer in Philadelphia, that guy is going to get enough saves that it'll make a difference. Whereas the Giants thing is just stay away from it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, because in Philadelphia, they're paying Archie Bradley. They paid him. They signed him. They paid him. They probably want him to pitch. But if he's not, I mean, and when has he ever been like horrible enough to lose his job? But he's a good effector, which is what they've always wanted him to be in Arizona.
As an effector, Andy.
What?
He can earn the money he's getting as the eighth inning guy.
Yeah, so that's
The more I watch baseball, the more I think the eighth inning is damn near as important as a closer.
It's a $6 million deal. It's not like that's crazy money for a setup reliever. I mean, remember a couple years ago when the Rockies went and signed an entire bullpen, and they paid guys $10 million to be setup guys.
We were just talking about the Rockies and how much money they've spent in the last 3 or 4 years on free agents, and how much they've brought back -3 WAR since, or no, yeah, -3.
I don't think $6 million is a lot of money to a baseball team.
No, billions. They spent billions.
Well, I'm talking about Bradley. I don't think that's so much money that they have to. He's got to be the closer,
So even now, okay. So I still don't think I will pick up Alvarado, and I will spend a lot less money than you guys are spending on Romano or the closer in Toronto, who's.
No, I would say that Alvarado has all the makings to be as good as Romano, but there's a little more in his path than the other guys. Now you have
there's
this
a lot less, there's nothing in his way in Toronto.
Yeah, and that's what you're paying for. Is that Romano? I'm sure that on next Tuesday, when we're 4 games into baseball, he's going to be the closer in Toronto. There's a good chance that Alvarado will be the closer in Philadelphia eventually.
But not right away.
Not certain.
Yeah, I agree with you.
12 teams in baseball. 12. I don't think I've ever seen this many, closer by committee. I mean, it usually turns out that way, but you go into the season, usually you kind of have an idea of who's who. Now, some of these are like job battles that are one person is going to do better than the other and claim the job. The other ones that have said from the beginning, we're not going to name a closer all season. We're going to share, like in Minnesota, you have what is going to be. But I still think that the best guy for the job gets the most saves, like the guy that's actually doing the best job. If you have to prove yourself. That's what it's come down to. But in Texas, you have Ian Kennedy and Matt Bush, competing for a job, maybe sharing a job. That Leclerc is having Tommy John surgery, they said. So,
really?
Yeah.
So he's out for the season. And Kennedy obviously has experience as a closer and actually did save 30 games a couple years ago. Matt Bush, no, not the same. So in my opinion, Ian Kennedy is a great find for a pickup, especially because you're not going to have to pay that much money from him. He's just not exciting to most fantasy owners, right?
Yeah. Right. No, I would pick up Kennedy. I'd also, I mean, I find myself buying both guys more often than if I have space than not, buying Melanson and Keela, that sort of thing. But yeah, Kennedy is probably
having the best spring right now too.
That makes the most sense. Bush is having a pretty good spring. I mean, they're last time I looked, unless something's changed the last 2 days or so, their numbers were about the same with Bush having a little more strikeouts and the other guy having a little fewer base runners.
There's a guy that is starting in the Taylor Widener, maybe
Widener.
He's going to be he's been having an excellent spring, you guys. He'll be starting in the Arizona rotation at least for a couple starts because of Zach Gallen being out. But go ahead.
Is Merrill Kelly able to start by opening day too? That's the other thing. Didn't he come back from thoracic outlet surgery or something? Is he ready to go? There actually is some space there. I was wondering whether Widener or Clark would get that spot.
Let me check it out.
But there might be, if you like Widener, there might be a longer time in the rotation than you think.
Merrill Kelly is scheduled to pitch on Friday.
Okay, so he's ready. He's going to be ready for the opening season. That's good to know.
And Widener is scheduled to pitch on Sunday.
But I guess the question is, it's that thoracic outlet surgery. There's not been a lot of successful comebacks from that. That's what I'm thinking, I guess.
Well, they're really, yeah. I mean, it's very tough to come back from that surgery. Matt Harvey had it, right? He's going to be he's scheduled to pitch on Saturday for Baltimore. And our boy Felix Hernandez, King Felix, is gone.
I'd like to see King Felix get signed by the Marlins to pitch in that fifth spot for a little while, just because I like the guy.
Didn't he last year? He signed with Atlanta for a minute. He is not. Look, man. Some guys they live off their fastball, and when you start to lose velocity as you get older, you start to lose velocity. And if you do not figure out a way to get more movement or use your secondary pitches more often or more successfully, like Kluber, he's never been like a real velocity guy anyway, but he's managed to. Adam Wainwright, same thing. Like Verlander, they all are adjusting.
Well, I mean, Kluber's always been. He's got two different slider curves, and that's
Kluber wasn't a good.
He was never a fastball guy.
It wasn't a good comparison. Okay, Kluber was not.
Sorry, Wainwright's a good one.
That's my
fault. He sort of refigured it out.
Like
I believe in Wainwright this year because what I saw last year was pretty. Every time he went on the mound in a 7-inning game, he's like, "I got this." And he had it.
I'm sorry.
It looked like Wainwright from 5 years ago.
First of all, I think that's the only player I got in labor. Everybody else outbid me on the rest of the players because they're exciting and stuff. I bid $1 on Adam Wainwright, and nobody even bothered to. Like, I understand he's not exciting, but fine, laugh at me all you want, okay, Mitchell? I think I'm happy about it. They can laugh.
I think Wainwright's going to eat,
especially because you're worried about innings. Like, he's going to give you a lot of innings, and at worst case scenario, he's going to give you at least decent innings. He's probably going to give you some good ones.
Yeah, I don't think he will kill you. I'm with you all the way on that. I picked up Wainwright. I think I paid $9 for him.
So, okay, Taijuan Walker too. What do you guys think of Taijuan Walker? Because
can't trust him. I'm sorry.
To see what he did today. Why can't you trust him?
How many years now has Taijuan Walker going to be a sterling pitcher in a starting rotation? And it's always some issue. Always. He's won his fourth or fifth team now. How many teams has he been on?
Okay. He did have a lot of problems, injury problems, until heading into 2020, where the Seattle Mariners re-signed him to a short contract, and then they traded him. And he pitched well for both teams last year, did not get hurt, and he's having a good spring too. He's got an excellent work ethic, dude. I understand why you would be absolutely like at your wit's end, especially if you had him, you were burned by him before. I think that a lot of people, that's why they don't draft him. But I have to say, dude, he looks great. Now he's on the Mets. He'll start on. He's gonna make today. He started, so let me check it out. Today he started. Let's see what he did today.
Is he still in the rotation when Thornburg comes back? Syndergaard.
No, he's on the Yankees, right?
He's on the
Mets.
Let me see what happened today. I do think he's still going to be on the roster. I think he's good enough to stay on the roster. You know, I think he's in
the starting rotation.
Yeah, I do think he's good enough to stay in the rotation for sure. I do.
Oh, Taijuan Walker. Yeah, I was thinking of Jameson Taillon. Sorry. Okay.
Jameson Taillon's looking great too. Taijuan Walker pitched the 5 innings today. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, and he walked 1, and he got 2 earned runs, and he allowed a home run. So one of those, and a 3.27 ERA, and it took him 80 pitches for 5 innings, and 48 of them were strikes. Yay. Just, okay, Mitchell, I'm telling you, swallow it.
Okay. All right.
My one thing about the Mets pitchers is that well, like New York guys in leagues I'm in tend to get picked higher because people like New York teams. One thing about the Mets pitchers that worries me a little bit is their infield defense, but it's only a little bit of a thing.
No, it's bad, dude.
It could mean a difference between a 3.5 ERA and a 3.8 ERA for a lot of players.
The only one worse is probably Cincinnati. They have absolute ridiculousness, dude, for defense. But at the Mets, you have Carlos Carrasco, who started throwing again today, by the way. He's resumed throwing activities. That's always good. DeGrom, Carlos Carrasco, Marcus Stroman. He's okay. Why did they pay him $18 million? I don't know, but they did. So he's not going anywhere. And then in the 4th and 5th spot, you have David Peterson and Lucchesi. So when Syndergaard does come back, it looks, I'm sure, and Carrasco, they're missing both of them right now.
Peterson looked pretty good last year. He was one of those guys I had on my list of like deep starting pitchers. I've never drafted him anywhere, never got that deep, but I thought there was something there.
I think Dustin May got sent down because I don't see him on.
Oh, that can't be Dustin May.
I really do think he did, and that's really weird. But let me look. I don't see him on the.
I saw, because I've been big on Price and I own him in a number of leagues. I've been watching the Dodger thing, and they've actually come out and go, "This is our starting rotation." Well, 4 of them at least. Like they literally named their first 4 starters, and then they said like the 4th one will be either Price, Gonsolin, or May. So something could have happened.
The last thing that they have about Dustin May was March 14th. That's a long time ago, but I do not see him on the depth chart. So that's just weird. They would say if he was sent down. It looks like he's number 7 on the depth chart.
If you go to Major MLB.com and you go to their depth chart, it'll show the Dodgers with 8 starting pitchers.
But it doesn't show for any spring training stats either. That's fucking weird. Let me look at the spring training stats. Has he been out? Dustin May. 13 innings. He's pitched 13 innings and he's made 3 starts. So he's still around, walked 6 in 13 innings. But he's a good pitcher.
They're all good.
He's an outstanding pitcher, but the problem this year is
logjam.
Where you have a 950 innings limit, you just cannot afford a guy who might throw 118 innings.
No, you absolutely not.
That's the issue, Andy. I love Dustin May, but I'm drafting pitchers. I drafted Mike Minor. He can't even share the same locker room really, to some degree with Dustin May. But Mike Minor will hit 180 innings and he'll strike out 180 batters.
How about this one? Here's one. Okay, let's talk about this one. Ross Stripling.
He looked good today.
He's getting stretched out. He's finally going to get a chance to pitch in a rotation because
he's better than Tanner Roark.
Right. Okay. Well, I think so too. But I think
better than Steven Matz.
I think that too, for sure. I agree with you.
I like some of their young guys in Toronto. I mean, I like Nate Pearson. I like TJ Zoich.
They're out. Well, Zoich is going to start in the rotation too. So you have Robbie Ray out, Nate Pearson out, Anthony Kay out, and Thomas.
Anthony Kay, wow, that's like all the Mets minor league. Kay and Zoich, and like, yeah.
And I was listening on the Athletic podcast, and they were talking about how Jordan Romano being the closer, then Rafael Dolis also, and then Tyler Chatwood, they said should be very interesting because he could be like the type of pitcher where, I mean, maybe that didn't work out as a starting pitcher, so they get thrown in the bullpen, and then they're really good.
On the bullpen? Wow.
He's in the bullpen now, Tyler Chatwood.
He's had a good spring.
I was planning on in our draft and hold of making Tyler Chatwood my last pick in the draft.
Well, he could be
now that he's going to the bullpen, it's not as good.
He's not appreciated in fantasy as much. But when a lot of these guys are great for effective roles because they could pitch more than one inning, they never panned out as a starting pitcher, and he could pitch. They do a lot better in the bullpen. Tyler Chatwood maybe found his home in the bullpen, but Ross Stripling getting an opportunity to start games again, and this guy never walks anybody hardly, and I think he could be a sneaky, like your last Douglas, like your last pitcher in baseball.
Those guys really, really deep. Yeah, no, I probably picked somebody else. There actually is a lot of better players than I would think in that league available.
I really wish that he would have. I really wish he would have been a reliever for more games because I need him to. We have to roster 2 relief pitchers in Tout Wars every week. We have to have 2 relief pitchers. And in order to qualify as a reliever, you have to have pitched 5 times in the relief, as a reliever. So it's just like
Aren't there? I mean, last year a lot of people pitched a lot of different spots. Aren't there guys available like Kevin Gausman and Dan Ponce de Leon and
none of these guys were relievers. That's the problem. I did find a couple that I put bids in for.
In my leagues, it's been 3 is the minimum.
3. That's all they have to do is 3.
In Yahoo, I don't know.
Oh yeah. So here's the ones I found. Logan Allen, he's the first on my list, and then this is all contingent players. If I can't get Logan Allen, it would be Taylor Widener, Ian Kennedy, Alvarado, Flexen in Seattle. He'll be starting in the rotation. And
I like Flexen more than I do. I mean, the team really likes him, but he's been around a bit.
I'm just trying to find starting pitchers that are qualified as a reliever.
And Chris Flexen at one point in time was roommates with a friend of mine who was a pitcher in the league, RJ Swindle, years ago. 5 years ago.
Don't forget Middleton.
Before Flexen went to Korea.
Kenyon, right? Kenyon Middleton.
He's a Lenny favorite.
He is a Lenny favorite. I don't know, and he's somebody to pay attention to. He was the closer in, I want to say LA. He was the closer.
I looked at that one and I go because a name popped up that I've always liked him when he's pitched, but he's been injured a lot. Is Drew Steckenrider, and I'm like, who has the most saves out of that bullpen there? And it turns out Montero has saved 8 games, and Middleton saved 7, and Steckenrider has saved 6. None of them are really. It could be anywhere. Montero seems like the guy because they traded for him.
I didn't even know he was on that team.
But he isn't so good that he has an iron clamp on the spot. But I do believe he's got the first shot.
He does, yes. Kendall Graveman is now in the bullpen for Seattle. I love Seattle.
That's a guy that has the kind of makeup that the conversion could be good.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Drew Smiley is pitching. I think he's in the rotation somewhere, but he did well pitching in San Francisco last year. You just have to really question when somebody leaves San Francisco, a pitcher. You have to say to yourself, they're probably not going to be as good outside of, I forget the name of the ballpark there. I think it changed recently.
There's the guy that I used to like was Trevor Cahill, and he pitched well everywhere except San Francisco.
Okay, there's those,
He's the opposite.
Yeah. Who else do we like to talk about that could be helpful for people?
You had the injury thing, and there was one injury that wasn't on there that I kind of wanted to is J-Man Choi, who the Rays love.
The fans love him too. He's a
they all love him. He's a great on-base guy, but apparently he had a setback coming back from his knee problem, and he's not going to start the year, which means that they're part of what you were going to talk about was who's going to lead off. There's a good chance that Yoshichi Tsugo is their leadoff hitter, and that guy hit. Last year he batted under 200 with 8 home runs, but that's his first 45 games in the major leagues. I'm not ready to give up on him. The guy had serious on-base chops in Japan and hit I think the last 4 years he hit 45, then 28, then 33, then 29 home runs. So there's some power there too. That might be an interesting guy because he's got the dual eligibility, third base and outfield, and those guys always stick out in my head.
But who played first base?
He would play first base. He would actually get first.
You don't
base.
think they move Yandy Diaz over to first and play Brousseau at third?
It seems like they want to get Tsugo to have an opportunity to show something.
Okay.
I do follow those guys from Japan a little bit, but there's something like J-Man Choi is much better baseball player than he is a fantasy guy, and they love the guy there. But apparently the injury is a little bit more serious. And
I did.
He was supposed to come back today and do something, and they weren't able to do it. So who knows? It might lead to some kind of surgery. It might be nothing, but it's something you got to watch, and that changes things up there a little bit.
Okay, let's go through real quick before we go. Let's go through the leadoff batters. I thought it was. I think it's for me. I always, if there's a question like the decision to be made between 2 players, and I see that one of them hits at the top of the lineup, the other guy hits at the bottom, I am absolutely taking the guy that hits at the top because he's going to get so many more opportunities at bats. Blah blah blah. Okay, that's it. But there's players that you never really think about that are actually batting leadoff, like this guy in Arizona, Tim LaCastro. He's sharing leadoff duties with Kettle. Is it Kettle Marte that batting leadoff too over there? Hold on.
Tim LaCrafts is a player I always like to watch play because he's basically everyone always says something about, but guys like Billy Hamilton are fast. Like if they only figure out a way to get on base, Tim LaCastro knows how to get on base, and what he does is he is very good at getting hit by pitches.
Okay, well,
So you watch him bat, and you're like, "Whoa, he got hit by a pitch again." He like doesn't move, and he bats in a way that he gets hit. It's a beautiful thing.
He's a stolen base guy too, and if he's
and he's a great stolen base guy.
So he is going to be playing right field, I think, for Cole Calhoun, who's been out. And you know what? Another thing, nobody's drafting Cole Calhoun. They're acting like he's going to be out, like like he's Eloy Jimenez problems and shit. He's not. He's not going to be out that long.
At worst, May 1st.
He's already picking up the bat. So just I would absolutely hop on that exciting opportunity there. But in the meantime, there's that. So Ketel Marte and him, they're both.
If I dislike closers by committee, I detest leadoff batters by committee.
Well, Acuna is the leadoff batter in Atlanta. Lenny tries to tell me he's not. Acuna Matata.
Well, the thing about platooning on the batting side is that generally speaking, the left-handed batter is going to be better than the right-handed batter from a fantasy standpoint, and he's going to get 70% of the at-bats. So it works out enough in most situations.
Cedric Mullins is going to bat off in Baltimore. You guys are familiar with Cedric Mullins or no?
Yeah. Cedric Mullins was the guy that everyone thought was going to steal a bunch of bases for the last 3 or 4 years, and he can barely hit 200. But hopefully things are better this year.
Yes, I hope for him, but I agree with you. I'm going to pass on him. But he is batting leadoff, so he's going to get opportunity. Kiki Hernandez, dude.
I picked him up, and that was a big part of the reason. It was like somehow in that lineup, they've decided he's the guy who's going to bat first. And he's a classic one of those guys that you when you see him play, you go, he's pretty good. Wonder if he got a full-time shot. And he's finally going to get a full-time shot. So it might be something good. It might be something that I cut in 3 weeks.
Now, here's the thing about him. Yes, it might be great. Shoot, man, the first time he was in the playoffs with the Dodgers, he was absolutely just crushed it in the playoffs. And then I tried to draft him in our playoff league because I was like, oh, he just crushes it in the playoffs. He stunk, okay?
The other thing I always remember about him is playing him in DFS versus Madison Bumgarner.
Yes,
he owned him. He's got like 600 with 7 home runs and 12 at bats.
Kiki is going to qualify at second base and in the outfield. He's played last year. He played 30 at second and 17 in the outfield. So he should qualify at both positions, right? Entering the season and batting leadoff, right? That's great. But yes, Douglas, you always have to have a couple spots for rotating players at the beginning of the season anyway. Yeah. So.
Can I interject something real quick?
Yes.
The foolish decision of the day, number one foolish decision, was a decision by Lindor to decline a 10-year, $325 million contract.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, that seems
he
like
declined it.
That seems fair.
He probably has Scott Boras as his agent, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't want to stay in New York.
I'll tell you what about old Frankie. I love the kid. He better have one hell of a season. And
that's a lot of money.
He's not going to hit the same in Chase Field that he hit in Cleveland.
Chase, he's in. Wait a minute, Lindor.
City Field.
Yes,
City Field. I'm sorry.
Maybe okay. Well, that is just ballsy. I mean, he must really.
I mean, there is a chance when you have that kind of money, there is a chance that you might have a preference in where you play, and maybe he doesn't want to be in New York.
That's the only thing I can think of because it's definitely.
I couldn't sleep at night if I declined that kind of money. And he could break his leg in the next 2 weeks. And
totally.
I was a stockbroker for like 14 years, and I would have these great pitches to these millionaires, and I'd say, "This is how I'm going to take your money and make you so much more money." And they'd go, "I don't give a shit about money. Give me time. Give me time back."
Yeah.
And so, like sometimes you get to a level.
Actually, the point well taken.
Okay.
He goes. So there might be different priorities for someone who's that rich.
Okay,
that's all I'm saying.
Not that rich yet because he hasn't signed a contract.
But someone's going to give him that contract.
If he doesn't break his arm or his neck or his leg.
What's he making now?
I don't think that he's actually signed a long term. Like he hasn't signed. He's still in I don't know. I can't guarantee, but I think he's still under contract for 1 more year, and they have to either sign him or trade him, obviously, because they don't want to lose out on him. I do think his contract is coming up. Like he's going to be signed coming up. Okay.
I thought for some reason free agent next year. I'm pretty sure.
I'm not even positive about
Who
this.
do you have leading off for the A's? That's what I saw kind of freaked me out.
Ian Happ for the Cubbies. You like the Cubbies, so that it looks like Mark Canha is leading off for the
Yeah,
A's.
that's a guy that's available very late.
Everywhere. This guy 20 home runs every year.
He's a good baseball player.
He's got the on base skills with the walks. He's kind of a little bit of a 3 outcome guy, but he gets on enough.
He's a good baseball player.
I'm telling you, batting leadoff is going to up his value a ton. So if you see him available late in your drafts, absolutely. He's not even owned on a lot of leagues. So
and the A's this year have a pretty weak bench, which is different for them. Usually they have like interchangeable parts. Their starters are going to play a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, Jesse Winker, dude, leadoff batter in Cincinnati. Lenny would tell you that Nick Senzel is going to also bat leadoff too. I think that maybe he'll bat leadoff against lefties, but other than that, I do not see him. He probably will bat leadoff against lefties. Winker, I think, has some significant splits. I think I'm not positive of that.
Well, no, I mean, the nice thing about playing in that Stratomatic is that the splits in that game were based off their real life splits.
Right.
And he was a guy that really crushed lefties and didn't hit righties very well, and that has been true. Though he's gotten a little bit better from what I saw last year.
So do you think that because it says here default versus righties, it would be Jesse Winker, and then default versus lefties is Nixon.
All right, so maybe it's the other way around. He was the guy that hit righties. Because in that thing I'd pair him with Luplo. Luplo hits lefties. But
they're both still in the lineup against.
But the other guy is that in Cincinnati who, when he comes back, and it's kind of a weird thing that happened to him, is who's a natural leadoff hitter, is that Shogo Akiyama. I don't know if I really want to get messed up in that. I mean, I love Nick Castellanos, I love Moustakas, but I don't really want to get messed up too much in the Cincinnati team.
I love Eugenio Suarez playing shortstop.
Eugenio Suarez I like too. I missed him.
He is going to play shortstop. He's going to qualify at middle and corner in just a couple of games.
Yep.
I love it.
Okay, can we talk about Colton Wong as the leadoff hitter? I think he's going to be great.
Yeah, for St. Louis.
For the Brewers.
Oh yeah, he went to the Brewers. He's going to steal some.
I think they're going to take the chains off from that guy, and they're going to run.
I think so.
I think Colton Wong is going to have a good year as a leadoff batter.
Now they also have Lorenzo Cain. So it says here, and this just RotoWire, but we can also look at the last 7 days of batting orders. The Lorenzo Cain is swooping in on his leadoff area with the batting. It's showing him as the default versus lefties as the leadoff guy, and then Colton Wong as the leadoff guy versus righties. So again, they're both in the lineup, and Colton Wong moves from first to fifth. So fifth is not that bad of a place to be hitting in the lineup. You know what I mean? Like So it's got Colton Wong and Lorenzo Cain against righties, and then Yelich and Hura and Travis Shaw and Jackie Bradley. What do you think of this lineup? It's not like overwhelming, dude, at all.
Travis Shaw hasn't done anything in 3 years.
Jackie Bradley and Omar Narvaez.
Jackie Bradley had a nice little year last year, and I've always had a soft spot for the guy. And he's had like months where he's been really good. Never.
Who's
so he's had like 2 bad years in a row. I think he's a good fit for their team. Well, last year he was pretty good. Last year's numbers were pretty good.
Who else? You guys guess the leadoff batter in Cleveland. You guys, let's play a game.
Guess the leadoff batter in Cleveland. Is it one of those like Andres Jimenez?
It's Cesar Hernandez.
Cesar Hernandez, yeah.
He's a good on base guy.
He's pretty good, and he will bat leadoff like he batted leadoff last year for Cleveland. They re-signed him this year, so they like him. He's just in fantasy. He doesn't provide a lot other than just the fact that he gets at bats. So who's the leadoff batter in Colorado?
Raimel Tapia.
Yeah, that's easy.
You got it. Okay, the Chicago White Sox. Who's the
I'm
leadoff?
gonna call him Rami from now on because it sounds cooler. Rami Tapia.
Okay. George
like Rami Malek, who played Freddie Mercury in that movie. Just sounds.
This is interesting. Not the guy I thought it was in White Soxville.
White Sox leadoff is Eaton got that spot?
He's in Atlanta now.
Totally
lying. He's still with. No, it's not Eaton though. He's better.
Tim Anderson is a weird one, but that's probably who it is.
It is Tim Anderson
because he does not walk. But if you can hit 320, you don't actually have to walk.
Every day for the last 7 days, he's batted leadoff, except for one day, which he had the day off. That was Lurie Garcia that had batted leadoff. But it does show Billy Hamilton on this team. Billy Hamilton batted second on the 27th. Since then, he could have been let go, and he might have been let go, but I don't know for sure why they would let anybody go with losing Eloy. They need all the help they can get. But I have been liking Andrew Vaughn now because of this loss of Eloy. I feel like Andrew Vaughn was already going to be the DH, but now he's going to actually be playing the outfield, and I think
you might have first base outfield eligibility in your league, and I always liked having one of those guys.
he can get on base really good, so we'll see. I mean,
he is pretty much locked in for a job right now.
Absolutely, yeah. Who's the leadoff batter in Detroit? You're never going to
Robbie Grossman.
Holy, you guys, it is Robbie Grossman.
I've been watching a lot of Detroit baseball because I've been watching
Grossman will be
do play.
Okay.
Grossman has been solid.
Grossman is going to be good.
Willie Castro looks good on that team. Grossman looks good on that team, and that's it on that team. And Scooball looks good sometimes.
Who do you think is going to be the leadoff guy in Houston?
Who?
Houston
George
now.
Springer. No, probably Jose Altuve. He probably makes the most sense.
It is Altuve. It's Altuve 6 of the last 7 days, but it does show at RotoWire that Carlos Correa will bat first against lefties. That could or may not be. Carlos Correa and Altuve are both batting first and second. But you see, like, it says default versus righties is Altuve. And then Brantley comes up after him. We know Brantley can get on base, right? And then Carlos Correa bats fifth.
Didn't Altuve, isn't he historically crushed lefties? I remember him being a DFS play versus lefties.
Bats second against lefties. And
Maybe
Correa
it's
bats first against lefties. Correa must be hitting lefties really good. Anyways, the last 6 out of 7 days it's been Altuve, and that includes against left-handed pitching and right-handed pitching. So I don't really know how they'll do it. So, but 6 out of 7 Altuve. I think they're downgrading Altuve a lot, maybe more than he needs to be downgraded. Right? He still plays decent baseball.
I mean, he had a good year last year. Admittedly, his basic season he batted like 210 or something, but then he had that great playoff. But if you take the whole thing as a whole, instead of saying he played 60 games, he'd say he played 72 games. He had 10 home runs and hit 263. It's not like that's horrible, you know?
Not at all. Okay, so Kansas City. Who do you think? This should be easy for you guys, Kansas City.
Whit?
Airfield?
Yes, and guess where Michael Taylor is hitting?
400.
At the bottom. He's hitting 9th.
The great batting average is 400.
I found the Royals thing to be interesting because Whit Merrifield's going to be in part of a 3-way platoon where he's going to play second base versus righties because Kyle Isbell's going to play right field. Then Whitfield's going to play right field versus lefties, and Hanser Alberto is going to play second base.
Okay.
They demoted Nicky Lopez.
Well, good for them. They should have, dude. Okay.
So it's going to be Alberto versus lefties and he'll play second with Whitfield going the outfield, and then the rookie Kyle Isbell playing in the outfield versus righties.
Michael Taylor has a job, okay, in center field. It's his job, and I will say that Kansas City has done quite a bit to make their team better this offseason, and I like it. And so I'll root for Michael Taylor, but did we bet against you? Aren't you the guy that loves Michael Taylor?
That would be Mitchell.
Yeah.
I thought so. Okay.
I said he was 2020 potential.
Okay, guess who's batting leadoff in Los Angeles? Angels.
The Angels?
Fletcher?
Holy crap. Yeah, he's terrible.
Shit, they're good. We should be playing trivia for this. I should be taking count here.
Yeah, I don't care that he's the leadoff hitter. I'm not taking him.
The 300 hitter, Doug.
Who's going to bat leadoff for the Dodgers?
Mookie
it is. Okay,
David Fletcher is a 300 hitter with not much else, and
no, that's true. That is true.
And he hasn't really. He hits the ball so weakly that that he's the kind of guy that could very easily lose the job because of that. Now, the one thing he does have going for him is it turns out he's a pretty good fielder,
right?
But and they don't really have a choice at second base besides him, do they?
No.
But he's just a guy that's not going to give you much outside of average. Now, batting first, it's gonna pump up his runs a bit. So he's probably better this year than he was last year. But did you roster him last year?
Look, man, if you have to draft a guy like Bobby Dalbec, Jock Peterson, any of these freaking dudes that are going to bring down your batting average, then he's perfect for you because Well, he might go a little early in drafts for you to be able to say that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree with
he's being drafted, which I think he's a guy that should be on the waiver wire.
Okay, who's leading off in Miami?
Miami. Oh, geez, it's probably no.
It's interesting.
Their best contact and on base guy is probably Corey Dickerson.
He's batting leadoff a lot, dude. Okay, he's batting leadoff a lot, but then you have Starling Marte, who can bat leadoff.
Well, that's true, Marte. I forgot. It's taking a while for me to register that.
And Jazz Chisholm, dude.
The Marlins kept Marte.
Yeah, I'd rather have Marte batting fifth. He's got some pop.
I don't know, man.
You want him to drive some runs.
You want Marte batting in the top three. He's probably their best hitter.
I think Duvall is going to crush it this year, batting fourth in the lineup. Fourth, Duvall, 30 home runs. And if you get him, then David Fletcher type players come in very handy.
Yeah, because he'll hit about 230.
Okay, let's talk about who's going to bat leadoff in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
This is a toughie. Actually, the last 7 days you've had 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I'm going through the lineup in my head. It's like Kepler's got good walk skills, but he's a low batting average guy. That'd be a weird one.
He's been batting leadoff more than anybody. But
I would have said I would start Jorge Polanco as their leadoff hitter.
He bats leadoff too sometimes. And Luisa Reyes and Mitch Garver even batted leadoff the other day. Mitch Garver, if you can imagine.
Mitch Garver, no, in that year where he hit all his home runs, he batted leadoff probably 20 or 25 games, believe it or not.
I just really hope. Okay, I hope. But Byron Buxton does not bat ninth anymore. That is wonderful. He is actually like toward the middle of the lineup now. So that's a great asset for Buxton. He's healthy. My only healthy player.
I drafted Buxton in the draft and hold because it's like I want to have him once.
This is what I'm sorry. I cut you off and it's very rude. You want to have him once though, and I will let you finish.
That was it. I just want to have him once. Somewhere in there, he's going to do something wonderful. Might not be this year. Might not be in my lifetime. But I want to have him when he does.
The Mets.
Nemo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nemo. And against lefties, it looks like it might be Lindor. But Brandon Nimmo that's another guy this is like the perfect reason why I even do this segment, because of guys like Brandon Nimmo that actually can get on base. Obviously, if they're batting leadoff, they can get on base. That we know. The opportunity for runs scored it goes up substantially when you are dealing with the leadoff guy. Okay. Right. So the Yankees, who's batting leadoff for the Yankees? You guys are really good at this, actually. I mean, I probably wouldn't be able to just like.
I'm trying. Oh, you know what it's going to be? I was going to say, I think that somewhere down the road it'll be Brett Gardner, but it's going to start with DJ LeMahieu. Mm-hmm. I think Brett Gardner is going to reappear in the life of the Yankees and take over that spot from Hicks.
When somebody needs Brett Gardner, he will be there for them. Then somebody will get hurt. But Brett Gardner, they only signed him because they felt like they had to, which they did. They owed it to him. Okay, but it is DJ LeMahieu. So we already talked about Oakland. What about Philly? Who's batting leadoff in Philly?
Philly.
Same old, really.
McCutcheon.
Yep,
really?
McCutcheon, good one. Who's batting leadoff in Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh is going to be Adam Frazier.
And then Brian Hayes, who's not going as high as I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to be way more expensive because of how he finished off last year. Didn't you?
Yeah, I know. I found that there were a lot of instances this year, and especially in early drafts, where guys that were rookies that would normally just be like everybody would just be going nuts over, sort of got forgotten, and then they would eventually get discovered, and the other guys get forgotten. There's just a lot of them,
Yeah.
I remember in the first draft that I hit back in August or whatever, like Alec Boehm went in the 17th round. Like what he had a good year.
He's an outstanding.
Brian Hayes went like the 50th. What?
I know Mitchell loves Alec Boehm.
Alec Boehm
I'm just saying that normally people go nuts about the rookies.
He's headed to stardom, in my opinion.
And like especially on the pitching side, all the rookies that came up last year that didn't do very well, like Casey Mize and Spencer Howard, like they're getting the cold shoulder this year.
Yeah,
a lot of them are.
That's right.
For 5 outings or 3 outings.
Adam Frazier's the Pittsburgh guy. Who's batting leadoff in San Diego?
Tatis when he's healthy.
definitely. I
Yeah.
would have thought that too. Okay, Seattle.
Didn't something happen to Grisham? Isn't he out?
I thought he was out.
You're going to start the season on the injured list.
Mm-hmm. Seattle, who's batting leadoff?
Dylan Moore.
Mitch Haniger.
Looks like
They've been talking about Mitch Haniger leading off there. I heard that.
this is interesting. They have Mitch Haniger, Dylan Moore. Both of these guys are batting leadoff. You guys are really good at this game, okay? Mitch Haniger, it looks like Mitch Haniger is like the leadoff batter. Out of the last 7 days, that's who's been batting leadoff the most.
Really? Yeah.
But the actual default batting order, which could absolutely be wrong, we haven't even started the season yet, it has J.P. Crawford batting leadoff in all 4 situations.
I think there could be a lot of flux with that Seattle team because there's not really any standout players. I mean, I like Kyle Lewis, but people can move around. I like France; he can move up in the lineup. J.P. Crawford actually was pretty decent. He can move up, he can move down. Dylan Moore had a great year last year, but if he's a little bit worse, he could be the 6th hitter or 7th hitter. Mm-hmm. Taylor Trammell actually has all the skills to be a leadoff hitter. The guy that won left, he has good on base skills, very fast. Yeah, I don't know if I would buy that a lot. I like Haniger as their leadoff hitter because I've heard stories about their coaches talking about that guy being their leadoff hitter. Dude, but outside of that, it could be half a dozen people.
They are totally like pumping up Mitch Haniger because they want to trade him. So I don't know how much I'd believe.
You're right. Because you got Julio Rodriguez hovering out there.
Yes, they're trying to trade Haniger, I think. What about San Francisco? This guy.
Stella.
I think it should be Donovan Solano, but I hear they're batting him 3rd. So I'm going to say it's probably Tommy La Stella.
It is Tommy La Stella, and I'm not very pleased about their acquisition of Tommy La Stella because he took time away from my boy Wilmer Flores, who I absolutely think is great. And he signed a multiple-year contract, so he's going to get playing time, but he doesn't have a job anymore, really, like every day.
I saw Terry Collins drunk in a bar at the Gaylord Hotel at the only winter meetings I've ever gone to and just walked around.
You saw him drunk there? When? What year?
He had a few beers. And my brother and I walked up to him, engaged him in conversation, and we asked him, when is Wilmer Flores ever going to get a chance to play every day? Mm-hmm. And he said, the guy's got a wonderful hit tool, but he can't catch a cold.
But I think it says he's got to go to the American League.
He can't move. He said he can't move sideways.
But he plays everywhere, though. He plays all over the infield. I know he's not the best defensive guy, but he can't be
great. He plays a good number of positions just to make sure he doesn't get good at any single one of them.
I mean, seriously, last year he played like all over the place, and that's great for fantasy purposes.
I've always liked his hitting ability.
He's, I liked when he cried. I really liked it when he cried because he thought he was getting traded from the Mets, and it was just it really made you think. Anyway, Terry Collins, I can't believe that story. Okay, that's a good story. St. Louis is Tommy Edman. I love that. He qualifies everywhere. Speaking of that.
Yep.
Tampa Bay, who's batting leadoff? That should be pretty.
Well, I just said that Yoshi is Tsutsugo versus righties. He's going to lead off versus righties.
What about Austin?
Lefties, versus lefties, probably Meadows.
Interesting. Yeah. It has Yandy Diaz. What in fucking Yandy Diaz? He doesn't even.
The thing that sucks about the Rays is that they have so many interchangeable parts that it's hard to really.
You never know.
You never know. It's like it even scares you a little bit off of Austin Meadows, who's probably their best player. It scares you off Bryden Lowe a little bit because even though he's very good, because it's the kind of team where if he has a bad 3 weeks, he could like lower himself in the priority, and then all of a sudden Mike Rousseau plays more.
Texas. Who's the lead off in Texas?
Is it Lee? One guy that we didn't mention. The guy we didn't mention speed is Leody Tavares. Is he their leadoff hitter? He's a good stolen base guy.
He did bat leadoff once this past week, but not you. No, there's a guy that batted leadoff 5 times.
Solak?
I really don't have. I try to think of on base guys like they don't. I mean, Gallo's a good on base guy, but they wouldn't lead him off.
He's newly acquired to Texas this year.
You know what? All right, this not Nick Solak.
He actually played catcher sometimes.
Oh, then it's
Falafel.
Shortstop Kiner Falafa. It looks like he's going to be. I mean, that's who's batting leadoff a lot, but Leody Tavares can bat leadoff too. I think
he was somebody when we talked about stolen bases that we forgot to mention. That's why he's stuck in my head.
I like him though. I do like. Okay, Toronto Blue Jays. This is an interesting one.
Well, Springer is out, right? So we're talking about who's going to like Springer is going to bat first when he's healthy, but who's going to do it now?
Mm-hmm. One guy's done it 6 out of the last 7 days. No, yeah, six out of the last 7. Marcus Semien.
Really?
That ups his value. I'm sorry, that ups his value.
I drafted Marcus Semien in the drafting hole.
That does increase his value. I agree.
Springer's going for a second MRI today. That's never good. I just don't think that's ever good. Maybe he feels better. I don't know why they'd go for a second MRI. There's nothing you could do for a bleep.
I'm going to stop for a second and say Melpal's out. Melpal and George are out in the chat room. So hello, Melpal. Hello, George. We haven't really talked about these people too much, but I want
to. And you would know that we already talked about Odubel. Okay, we already talked about Odubel, but
yeah, he just came in late.
And yesterday I came to the show yesterday. So I didn't see the message that he put in the chat room on Saturday saying that he wasn't going to do a show Sunday because he was going to be drafting in the middle of the draft. So I come cruising around at 6:30, like nobody's here, and I'm like, "What? Okay, where's George? I really missed you, George."
I actually popped the draft room when I got home at about 7:30, and like, oh yeah, he's drafting this weekend.
Don't you kind of miss George's show when
George's show is amazing. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like this love poem to baseball. You like walk down memory lane, talking about players that were oft forgotten, and it just makes you feel good. It's different than anything else out there.
You can't even explain it. It's just if you try to explain George.
I think my description is about as close as you'll get. It's like this. It's just fun. And like I thought of George today when Cal Isbell made the team in Kansas City, because I was going to say that Cal Isbell is in my top 5 baseball players that I want to target whose last name starts with the letter I, because that's a George kind of thing, you know.
For sure. We could come up with all the people in the world that have the last name of that.
Well, there's not that many baseball players. It's like it goes Razel Iglesias, Kyle Isbell, Jose Iglesias, and then then you have Ender Inciarte and Cole Irvin. Those are only 5 eyes.
Raul Abanya.
Ian Kennedy.
Well, that's a K.
For the last name. Okay.
Yeah. George's failure to do a podcast made him do a bad draft, and that's what Melpal said.
Tomorrow I'm drafting against George in an NL only. I should at least get the league right, dude. I'm gonna have to go in there, and
how many leagues are you in?
I have a lot of best ball leagues, which I love. But
I was telling Mitch about the best ball beforehand. Like for somebody like you who has an addiction to drafting, best balls are wonderful.
It's the best thing that ever fucking happened.
Because you don't have to worry about it, and you can have 15 leagues.
It's the best thing that's ever happened to fantasy baseball, in my opinion. Because plus you don't have to. You just don't have to like try to. I always feel like the ones I choose to put on the bench are the ones that usually like score the most that week. And so in this situation, the computer you get the best combination of points that you can on your team.
Who's the provider that you do best ball with?
There's a number of them, but she's with.
I do RT Sports. I have RT Sports going on now. I have 2 at best balls at NFBC. They have different types of best balls. So they have.
Do you have to pay for it?
Yeah, but we paid $5.
$5 there, $10 there. I don't know how I had like $60 in RT Sports going into this season.
Well, you don't have it anymore.
No, I spent it. And
have you heard of the app Underdog?
No. I know
they're advertising it on RotoWire today. Underdog.
What do you do? You play
best ball app.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
It's called Underdog.
The other thing about best ball, I think I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like if I lose at best ball, it's not going to really bother me. It's kind of like losing at DFS. Like it's just something that happens because once you draft, it's like, what else could I have done? It just sort of worked out that way. That guy got hurt, that guy got hurt, and it's just life, you know.
But I'm going to draft more players than a half a dozen or 12 players. The way Andy, you don't draft 23 players. You only
32 players in some of them.
32 players for 11 spots.
Yeah, you don't have They typically they have less active roster spots. So like you don't have a middle and a corner. You have like 2 or 3 outfielders total. You have like 4 or 7 pitchers total.
I did make a mistake.
It's a snake draft. It's got to be a snake draft.
Yeah, slow one. And oh my God, Douglas, you just have Douglas, dude. Never mind. I'm not even going to bring that up.
No, it's like I have everything I've done in that draft has been to speed up the draft more than anybody else in that league.
But Douglas, it's not working because every time you say something, it just makes that guy mad. And then
he is not going any slower now than he was before. And the truth is, I talked to the guys at the league. They are going to, on the last day, drop the clock down to 30 minutes a pick because of what he's doing. And no one's saying I'm doing it. He's the kind of guy that not only should be he should be kicked out of that league and banned from that site.
But when he said
they told me that draft is going to be done before the season starts.
He says, okay, one other guy in the league was like, dude, please don't torture the rest of us, whatever. And he's like, okay, but if Doug says one more thing, then I'm going to.
No, that's true. It's like I have no power over that guy. I have no power over that guy whatsoever. He was a jackass before that. I told him, I said, hey, I want you to pre-select this pick, and he didn't do it because I have no power. Every minute of his clock time is him being the jerk that he always was, and I did not say anything about him until the 6th day of the draft.
No, okay, so he was taking forever, and he was the only one in the draft taking forever. And what you said was not even rude enough for him to act like a fucking child, okay? But
and that's it. It's like the idea is that
here's the story. This guy was taking way too long. It's a 4-hour draft picks. But you shouldn't take all 4 hours because it's fucking excruciating when you do. And this guy was, and he comes back and he's like, I have 50 leagues. And I mean, why are you playing in 50 leagues? You obviously don't have a lot of faith in your talents here, like just put it on fucking auto draft and you're going to probably have the same chances of winning that you do when you just hold. But he'll come around and he'll take himself off auto once he goes on auto after 4 hours of torture. Then he goes on auto and comes back around later and then like takes himself off auto. So then he fucking goes back on auto again because he takes forever. And it's like, I miss my picks sometimes too. Always. I think everybody does.
Yeah, it does.
I'll miss a pick or two throughout a draft.
I would have drafted a player in TFGBI because I just fell asleep during those 4 hours.
Lenny, dude, says, what's your problem? It's 4 hours. The guy has 4 hours to pick. That's the rules. That you.
If you get into a draft, there is an understanding on a slow draft that we all have to work together, even though you have 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, that we all have to work together to have the draft done before the season starts.
But so it's not obligated. It's not an obligation.
No, it is an obligation. It's not obligated by the site.
Why would you not want to finish the draft before the season starts?
So if you're a guy that's going to take 4 hours on a draft, you do not join a slow draft with 10 days to go to the season.
The issue is, why do they even have slow drafts?
Well,
just don't have them.
Lenny is right in a sense that if you sign up for a 4-hour draft pick, then everybody gets their 4 hours.
No, that is incorrect. You have to have the understanding that you're done before the end of the season. If you have a 12-hour draft and you sign up for January 1st, that means that everyone gets the time, and you're not going to have the draft done until April 15th.
I'm going to speed up the clocks just to make sure that we do. But we should.
You're going to suffer because of that one guy.
I'm not suffering shit. I'm going to beat both of you in that league.
Love the competitive spirit juices.
Yes. Okay. So you guys done? What else do we have?
Yeah.
Any more news while we were on here?
Can I throw one more question out?
Please do.
Should I go after Madison Bumgarner?
No. It's exactly what I said earlier about pitching outside of San Francisco once they leave. He's in his older age. He is not the old mad bum, not even close. This guy is not.
I hadn't thought about being outside the ballpark.
Remember when he played, whenever he pitched in Arizona, he had some of the worst games, even in spring training.
That's a very valid point that I had not thought of. But with the wheels came off when he left that big ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Francisco Liriano is still a thing.
Now, if you have 500 picks on the draft, I could see Mad Bum at pick 448.
No,
really deep.
You could take Logan Webb. He's actually on fire right now. Logan Webb. He might be good. Sleeper.
Yep. Am I correct that he's been moved up to number 3 in the rotation? Because I thought I read that.
Yeah. Yastrzemski's hurt. It looks like pitch hit his hand today, so we got.
I looked at that one because there was a guy that I'm actually somewhat interested in, even though I don't own him. And everything they said is it looked horrible, but they're positive about it. But you really don't know until you get the X-ray, and so we really can't say anything until tomorrow. But based on the preliminary, like they feel the hand, that stuff, they're feeling pretty good about it.
That's what they say. The trainers do not think that he got a fracture of any kind, but until they see it. So we're going to find that out tomorrow.
Okay.
That's about it, dude.
I'm ready to call it a night.
Yes, it's been fun. We'll talk next roundtable on next Monday, but everybody tomorrow morning.
And I might try to do a show this weekend.
Okay.
I'm about 85% certain. Remember, I said I was going to do it when the season started because I feel like I can talk about by myself.
You want to come on after me or before me?
I haven't decided that. I do want to do it on Saturday because I want the topic to be, what do you call it? Waiver wire. That's something I'll be looking at every week. It won't be extra work to look up something else. You know what I mean?
What are you talking about on Saturday? Another.
I do a podcast most of the time. I sort of stopped because I lost my partner and I was trying to revamp it. And the truth is, I've been talking to somebody about joining me on the show. Somebody who has a really, really crazy, weird podcast with like one listener, and that's me.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Fantasy Baseball Disrupt. But he basically like has these ideas about baseball, and every now and then he records a podcast when he's walking his dog.
Okay. Well,
so we've been having conversations. I'm like, hey, looks like you have something to say. But anyway,
Mitchell.
Probably Saturday.
On Saturdays, I do Saturday baseball at 12:30 every Saturday.
All right.
So you should come and visit.
Yeah, my plan is either to be before her or after her.
Okay, Andy.
Come visit.
But I don't know which.
Everybody, because now George works now again, so it's really a bummer that we have to lose him.
He's not going to do Sundays at all? I just thought it was just for the draft.
In the chat room on Saturday baseball, it's really George and you, Douglas, and whatever who comes. But I'm always.
I usually get there for about. I'm there for
you. You're doing a podcast on Saturday at 12:30, right?
Every Saturday I do. Right here.
Like the same thing we get every morning.
Yeah,
similar.
Like that.
But she does video. She has video though.
I do video, just like we're doing now. But I try to go to do Spreaker too. But sometimes.
Do you think it'd be better to be before you, after you, or do the same time on Sunday morning?
That depends on if you're like up early in the morning and ready to go. I mean, I would probably go on earlier than I could listen after my show. I could listen to Andrea's show. Then that would be best.
Yeah, that is the one thing. When I was after George, I really would only half listen to George's show because you do those last minute
Yeah, it's really impossible to. That's why I always try to go on first. Okay, so there's that.
All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
It was fun.
Fun times.